Your pulse quickens, excitement rises. An invisible belt wraps tightly around your chest. Your thoughts race from one disaster story to another, each one feeling more real than the last. And no matter what you do, that gnawing discomfort won't let go. If this feels painfully familiar, if you've spent nights staring at the ceiling, rehearsing conversations that will never happen, or disasters that will never come, then you're about to discover something that changes the rules of the entire game. Here's what most people get wrong about anxiety. They see it as a malfunction, a broken part of the brain that needs fixing. They download meditation apps that get abandoned and forgotten after 3 days, force positive affirmations on themselves that feel like lies, or throw themselves into work hoping the noise will suppress the worry. Spoiler: none of this touches the real problem. What if I told you that anxiety isn't the villain of the story? What if it's actually like an overzealous security guard who's forgotten the war ended years ago? When you understand this shift, when you learn to act and work together with your mind instead of fighting against it, something miraculous happens. You realize the control is in your hands. You just didn't know where the keys were. Don't worry, we'll find the key together. Today, we're embarking on a journey, not just to silence the screaming in your head, but to fundamentally rebuild your relationship with fear, the unknown, and your own thoughts. These aren't temporary fixes or short-term tricks. This is about building something long-lasting and permanent, something unshakable, like a building made of steel, a foundation of inner peace that doesn't collapse when life gets complicated. Chapter 1. Decoding your mind's alarm system. Let's start by understanding what's actually happening when anxiety takes over. It's not random chaos, even though it feels that way. Your anxiety is running an ancient program, one designed for a world where saber-toothed tigers were a legitimate Tuesday afternoon problem. Imagine your brain as a control tower at an airport. When everything's calm, it's efficiently managing all the incoming and outgoing flights of your thoughts and emotions. But when anxiety kicks in, it's like someone pulled the fire alarm. Suddenly, every single system goes into emergency mode. The problem? In our modern world, that fire alarm goes off when you get a weird text from your boss, not when you're about to be eaten by a predator. Your brain can't tell the difference between actual danger and imagined danger. To your nervous system, worrying about tomorrow's presentation activates the same survival circuits as encountering a bear in the woods. Both scenarios trigger what scientists call the stress response, a full-body mobilization that was supposed to save your life in short bursts, not run constantly like a computer that never shuts down. Think about this. Your ancestors who survived weren't the optimists who assumed everything would work out fine. They were the worriers, the ones who saw danger around every corner and prepared accordingly. Those anxious genes got passed down through generations because they worked. Your anxiety isn't proof that something's wrong with you. It's proof that your ancestors were really, really good at not dying. But here's where it gets interesting. That same brain that's triggering all this anxiety has something called neuroplasticity. It's basically the brain's ability to rewire itself based on what you practice. Every time you successfully navigate an anxious moment with awareness and skill, you're literally carving new neural pathways. You're teaching your brain that there's another way to respond. The biggest mistake people make is trying to eliminate anxiety completely, like it's a weed they need to pull from their mental garden. But emotions aren't weeds. They're signals. Sometimes your anxiety is pointing at something legitimate that needs your attention. Other times, it's just your brain's old programming playing on a loop, like a vinyl record stuck on the same scratchy part. Learning to distinguish between these two types of anxiety is like learning to hear the difference between a car alarm going off because someone's breaking in versus it going off because a cat jumped on the hood. Same noise, completely different meaning, requires a completely different response. Your anxious mind thrives in the fog of uncertainty. It desperately wants to nail down every variable, control every outcome, guarantee every result. But life doesn't work that way. Life is more like jazz than classical music, more improvisation than sheet music. And the sooner you can find peace in that reality, the sooner anxiety loses its grip. Here's something nobody tells you. The goal isn't to never feel anxiety again. The goal is to change your relationship with it so completely that when it shows up, you recognize it for what it is, a temporary visitor, not the person who owns the house. Chapter 2. The Hidden Roots of Mental Chaos. Now that you understand what anxiety is, let's dig into why it keeps showing up uninvited to your mental party. Because anxiety doesn't just appear out of thin air. It has roots, and those roots often run deeper than you think. One of the biggest culprits? Perfectionism. Not the healthy kind where you take pride in your work, but the exhausting kind where nothing is ever good enough, where every mistake feels like proof of your inadequacy, where you're constantly worried about disappointing some invisible committee of judges who are apparently grading your entire life. Perfectionism is basically anxiety in a business suit. It pretends to be about excellence, but it's really about control. It's your mind's way of saying, if I just worry enough, plan enough, prepare enough, then nothing bad can happen. But that's a trap, because perfection is a moving target that you'll chase forever, leaving you perpetually exhausted and never satisfied. Let me paint you a picture. Perfectionism is like trying to build a sandcastle at the edge of the tide, but you're convinced that if you just build it perfectly enough, the waves won't touch it. So you spend all your energy on the perfect architecture, the perfect moat, the perfect towers. And then a wave comes anyway, because that's what waves do. The problem was never your sandcastle. The problem was thinking you could stop the ocean. Another major root of anxiety is what I call the certainty addiction. Your mind is hooked on guarantees like they're oxygen. It needs to know that you'll be safe, that people will like you, that your plans won't fall apart, that the future won't bring anything you can't handle. But life doesn't come with guarantees, and the more you demand certainty from an uncertain world, the more anxious you become. This creates a vicious cycle. Uncertainty triggers anxiety, which makes you seek more control, which is impossible to achieve, which creates more anxiety. It's like trying to grab smoke with your bare hands. The harder you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. Here's something that might surprise you. A lot of your current anxiety isn't even about current situations. Your nervous system has a memory bank, and it's storing data from experiences you might not even consciously remember. Maybe you were humiliated in third grade when you gave a wrong answer. Maybe you were left alone too much as a kid. Maybe you experienced something traumatic that taught your system to always be on guard. These past experiences create what psychologists call schemas, basically mental templates that your brain uses to interpret new situations. If your schema says, "The world is dangerous," or "People will reject me," or "I'm not capable of handling challenges," then your brain will automatically filter every new experience through that lens, finding evidence to confirm what it already believes. The stories you tell yourself become the reality you experience. If you walk around believing that disaster is always lurking around the corner, your brain will helpfully point out every possible disaster it can find. It's not trying to torture you, it's trying to keep you prepared. But constant preparation for disaster is just another word for chronic anxiety. Let's talk about something we don't discuss enough: the anxiety industry. We live in a culture that profits from your worry. News outlets discovered decades ago that fear gets clicks. Social media platforms learned that controversial and alarming content keeps you scrolling. Advertisers figured out that making you feel inadequate sells products. You're swimming in an ocean of manufactured anxiety every single day. Your phone buzzes with urgent notifications. Your feed shows you everyone's highlight reel while you're living your behind the scenes. The news tells you about every possible threat from every corner of the globe. No wonder your nervous system is exhausted. Here's another route that most people overlook: disconnection from your body. When you live entirely in your head, analyzing and overthinking and catastrophizing, you lose touch with your body's wisdom. Your body actually knows how to calm itself down. It has built-in systems for releasing stress and returning to balance. But if you're always trying to think your way out of anxiety, you miss the physical pathway to peace. Modern lifestyle factors pour gasoline on the anxiety fire. You're probably not sleeping enough. You're definitely consuming too much caffeine. You're sitting more than your body was designed for. You're eating foods that spike and crash your blood sugar. You're bathed in artificial light when your biology expects darkness. Each of these might seem small on its own, but together they create a physiological environment where anxiety thrives like weeds in fertile soil. And here's the cruelest twist: many people develop anxiety about their anxiety. Once you've had a panic attack, you become hyper-vigilant for any sign that another one might be coming. You monitor your heartbeat like a hawk. You check your breathing constantly. You scan your thoughts for anything that might trigger another episode. This hypervigilance actually increases anxiety because you're putting all your attention on the very thing you're trying to avoid. It's like telling someone not to think about a pink elephant. The instruction itself makes it impossible to follow. Chapter 3: Your Body's Wisdom. Here's something that might blow your mind. You can't think your way out of anxiety. Why? Because anxiety lives in your body just as much as it lives in your mind, maybe even more so. Your body and brain are in constant conversation, and right now, your body might be screaming while your brain is trying to convince it to be quiet. When anxiety hits, your body goes into full survival mode. Your heart rate shoots up like you're sprinting, even though you're sitting still.
Your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. Your muscles tense up like you're about to fight or run. Stress hormones flood your system. Your digestion basically shuts down because who needs to digest lunch when a predator is chasing you? Except there's no predator. There's just your thoughts. But here's the beautiful part. Your body also has an opposite system, what scientists call the parasympathetic nervous system. Think of it as your built-in chill mode. The problem is, most people don't know how to activate it intentionally. They wait for it to kick in naturally, which can take hours or even days after anxiety has passed. Let's start with the most obvious tool you have, your breath. But not just any breathing. Most people breathe in a way that actually increases anxiety without realizing it. Quick, shallow breaths from your chest tell your brain, danger is here. But slow, deep breaths from your belly tell your brain, we're safe now. There's a specific technique that
Works almost magically. Breathe in through your nose for 4 counts, hold that breath for 7 counts, then exhale through your mouth for 8 counts. The specific pattern matters because the extended exhale activates your vagus nerve, which is like the superhighway of your parasympathetic nervous system. But here's what makes this more than just a breathing exercise. It gives your anxious mind something to do. Instead of spinning catastrophic scenarios, it has to count. This interrupts the anxiety loop while simultaneously calming your nervous system. It's like redirecting a river into a new channel. Your posture is another powerful lever you can pull. Notice what happens to your body when you're anxious. You probably curl inward, shoulders hunch forward, chest collapses, head drops. This protective posture actually reinforces the feeling of vulnerability and danger. But when you consciously open up your posture, stand tall, roll your shoulders back, and lift your chest, you send completely different signals to your brain. There's actual research showing that holding a confident posture for just 2 minutes can change your hormone levels, decreasing cortisol and increasing testosterone. You're not faking confidence, you're creating it through your body. Temperature is a tool most people ignore. Your nervous system responds powerfully to temperature changes. Splashing cold water on your face activates something called the dive reflex, an ancient mammalian response that immediately slows your heart rate. It's like hitting a reset button on your nervous system. On the flip side, warmth can be incredibly soothing. A hot shower, a heating pad on your chest, or even wrapping yourself in a blanket activates your body's rest and relax mode. Your ancestors huddled around fires for safety and warmth, and your nervous system still associates heat with security. Let's talk about progressive muscle relaxation, which sounds boring, but is actually genius. When you're anxious, your muscles are holding tension you might not even be aware of. Your jaw is probably clenched right now. Your shoulders are probably up near your ears. By consciously tensing and then releasing different muscle groups, you teach your body the difference between tension and relaxation. Start with your toes. Tense them for 5 seconds, then release, and notice the wave of relaxation. Move up to your calves, then thighs, then stomach, and so on, all the way to your face. By the time you're done, your body has remembered what relaxation actually feels like. The food you eat is either feeding your anxiety or fighting it. When your blood sugar crashes, your body releases stress hormones to bring it back up. But those stress hormones feel a lot like anxiety, so that mid-afternoon panic might actually just be your third cup of coffee wearing off, combined with the candy bar crash from earlier. Magnesium is something worth paying attention to. It's involved in over 300 biochemical reactions in your body, including ones that regulate your nervous system. Deficiency is incredibly common and linked directly to increased anxiety. Dark leafy greens, nuts, and seeds are your friends here. Movement is medicine that doesn't come in a bottle. When you're anxious, your body is literally prepared for physical action, fight or flight. But if you don't move, all those stress chemicals just marinate in your system. You don't need to run a marathon. Even a 10-minute walk can help metabolize cortisol and adrenaline, while releasing endorphins that naturally improve your mood. Here's something interesting. Gentle movement is often more effective than intense exercise for anxiety. Yoga, Tai Chi, or just stretching send signals to your nervous system that it's safe to relax. Intense exercise, while great for overall health, can sometimes spike anxiety in the short term because it activates your sympathetic nervous system. Sleep is when your nervous system repairs itself. When you don't sleep enough, your emotional regulation goes out the window. Everything feels more intense, more threatening, more overwhelming. One bad night makes you more anxious the next day, which makes it harder to sleep the following night. It's a cycle that feeds itself. Creating a wind-down routine is crucial. Your body needs time to shift from day mode to sleep mode. This means dimming lights, avoiding screens, maybe taking a warm bath or reading something not anxiety-inducing. Treat the hour before bed like a decompression chamber, a gradual transition from the chaos of the day to the stillness of sleep. Your body also has natural energy rhythms throughout the day. Most people have a natural dip in the afternoon, which is why coffee shops make a fortune at 3 p.m. Fighting against these rhythms creates stress. Working with them, scheduling demanding tasks during your high-energy times, and allowing for rest during low-energy times reduces the baseline stress that feeds anxiety. Understanding these physical pathways to calm is crucial because your mind and body aren't separate systems. They're one integrated whole. When you calm your body, your mind follows. When you calm your mind, your body responds. This isn't New Age philosophy. It's basic neuroscience. The key is consistency. Using these tools once when you're in the middle of a panic attack is better than nothing, but it's like trying to bail out a boat with a teaspoon when what you really need is to patch the leak. Practice these techniques when you're already calm. Build them into your daily routine, and they'll be there for you automatically when anxiety shows up.
Chapter 4. The Power of Right Now.
Here's a truth that might seem obvious but is actually revolutionary. Anxiety cannot exist in the present moment. Read that again. Anxiety lives exclusively in two time zones, the past and the future. You're either replaying something that already happened or rehearsing something that hasn't happened yet. But right now, in this exact second, you're probably fine. Your anxious mind is like a time machine stuck in a constant loop. It jumps forward to imagine disasters that might occur, then jumps backward to analyze mistakes you've made, then forward again to worry about consequences. then backward to wonder what you should have done differently. It's exhausting. And the whole time, it's missing the only moment where you actually have any power. Now. Think of your life as a movie. Anxiety is when you pause the movie, zoom in on one frame, and convince yourself that this single frozen moment is the entire story. But life isn't a still image. It's a flowing stream, constantly moving, constantly changing. When you're fully present in that stream, anxiety loses its grip because you're not projecting horror movies about the future or replaying old tragedies from the past. Your breath is the simplest portal back to now. You can't breathe yesterday. You can't breathe tomorrow. Breath only happens now. So when you feel your mind spiraling into what-ifs and should-haves, anchor yourself to your breathing. Not fancy breathing, just noticing it. Feel the air moving in and out. Notice the pause between breaths. This simple act pulls you back from time travel into present reality. Your 5 senses are like anchors that keep you tethered to the present moment. When anxiety starts building, engage your senses deliberately. Look around and name 5 things you can see. Actually see them, not just glance at them. Listen for 4 distinct sounds. Notice 3 things you can physically feel: your feet on the floor, the chair supporting you, the air on your skin. This isn't a distraction technique. It's a reality check. It reminds your nervous system that right now, in this moment, you're safe. Here's a practice that sounds too simple to work, but is surprisingly powerful. Naming what's happening. When you feel anxiety rising, say to yourself, "I'm noticing anxious thoughts," or "My mind is time traveling again." This creates a small but crucial gap between you and the anxiety. You're not the anxiety. You're the awareness that notices the anxiety. That distinction changes everything. The anxious mind loves to ask what-if questions. What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if everything falls apart? These questions feel productive, like you're preparing for possibilities. But they're actually traps because they pull you out of reality and into imagination, and not the good kind of imagination. Present moment awareness responds to what if with what is. What is actually happening right now? What do I actually know to be true in this moment? Not what might happen, not what I fear will happen, but what is actually occurring right now. Usually the answer is that you're okay. You're breathing. You're alive. You're handling this moment just fine. Your body is always in the present tense. It can't be anywhere else. So when your mind starts its time travel routine, drop your attention into your body. Feel your heartbeat. Notice the weight of your body. Pay attention to the sensation of your clothes on your skin. Your body is like a tether that can pull you back from the mental time machine into the present moment. Walking meditation is present moment practice in motion. As you walk, pay complete attention to the physical experience. Feel your heel touch the ground, then your weight rolling forward to your toes. Notice how your arms swing. Observe your legs moving. When your mind wanders into planning or worrying, Gently bring it back to the simple act of walking. It's harder than it sounds, which is exactly why it's so powerful. One of the deepest insights about present moment awareness is this: acceptance. Not resignation, not giving up, but accepting what's actually happening right now before you decide how to respond. Fighting against present reality is like arguing with a rainstorm. The rain doesn't care about your opinion. It's raining. You can accept that and grab an umbrella, or you can stand there angry that it's raining while getting soaked. Both ways, it's raining. Only one way leaves you dry. Here's what most people discover when they practice present moment awareness. Most of what they worry about never happens. And the things that do happen are rarely as catastrophic as their anxious mind predicted. When you stay present, you see reality clearly instead of through the distorted lens of anxiety. You realize you can handle whatever actually comes much better than your worried mind believes. The present moment isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it includes pain, frustration, or difficulty. But it's still better than adding anxiety on top of those challenges. Present moment awareness doesn't eliminate life's difficulties. It eliminates the extra suffering you create by fighting against reality or projecting into the future. Chapter 5: Rewiring Your Mental Software. Let's talk about the stories your mind tells you and how those stories are probably lying to you. Not intentionally, but because your anxious brain has learned to interpret reality through a very specific, very distorted filter. These thinking patterns are called cognitive distortions, and they're like wearing glasses that make everything look more threatening than it actually is. Black and white thinking is one of the most common distortions. Everything is either perfect or a complete disaster. You're either succeeding completely or failing miserably. There's no middle ground, no nuance, no gray area. But life lives in the gray. A presentation that has one awkward moment isn't a total failure. A relationship that has conflicts isn't doomed. But black and white thinking doesn't allow for that reality. It's like judging a movie by a single frame. You watch 1 second where the hero falls down and conclude the entire movie is about failure, completely missing the next scene where they get back up and save the day. Catastrophizing is your mind's specialty. Something small goes wrong, and immediately your brain fast-forwards to the worst possible outcome. You make a mistake at work, and suddenly you're imagining being fired, losing your house, and ending up alone. Your mind skips over the 99 more likely outcomes, the minor correction, the learning opportunity, the thing no one even remembers tomorrow, and jumps straight to catastrophe. Mind reading is another favorite trick. You assume you know what others are thinking about you, and, surprise, it's always something negative. Your friend doesn't text back immediately, so they must be mad at you. Your boss seems distracted in a meeting, so they must be disappointed in your work. You're essentially writing a screenplay in your head where everyone else is thinking the worst about you, and you're treating that fiction as fact. Fortune-telling is when you predict the future, always negatively. I'm going to mess this up. They won't like me. This is going to go terribly. You're not psychic. You have no idea what's actually going to happen. But your anxious mind treats these predictions as certainties rather than the guesses they actually are. Your brain also has what's called confirmation bias. Once it decides something is true, it looks for evidence to support that belief, while conveniently ignoring evidence to the contrary. If you believe you're socially awkward, your mind will replay every awkward moment you've ever had, while completely forgetting all the successful social interactions you've had. So how do you rewire these patterns? First, you have to catch them in action. When you notice an anxious thought, pause. Ask yourself, is this thought actually true? What evidence do I have for and against this thought? What would I tell a friend who was thinking this way? Let's say your thought is, I'm going to completely embarrass myself at this event. Evidence for, you feel nervous. Evidence against, you've attended hundreds of social events and survived all of them. You're actually pretty good at conversations when you're not in your head. Most people are too worried about themselves to scrutinize you that closely. The goal isn't toxic positivity. It's realistic thinking. Instead of, I'm going to fail and everyone will hate me, a realistic thought might be, I'm nervous about this, but I'm prepared and I've handled similar situations before. Even if I'm not perfect, that's okay. Thought stopping is useful when you're stuck in a mental loop. When you notice your mind playing the same worried thought for the 100th time, mentally shout, "Stop!" Then immediately redirect your attention to something else. This interrupts the loop long enough for you to choose a different thought pattern. Diffusion is a technique that changes your relationship with thoughts. Instead of, I'm going to fail, try, I'm having the thought that I'm going to fail. See the difference? The first statement treats the thought as truth. The second recognizes it as mental activity, just your brain doing what brains do, generating thoughts, not all of which are accurate or helpful. Reframing is about finding different ways to interpret the same situation. Let's say you're anxious about a job interview. The anxiety frame is, this is a test I might fail, and if I do, it proves I'm not good enough. A reframed perspective might be, this is a conversation to see if we're a good mutual fit. If we're not, that saves both of us from a poor match. If we are, great. Either way, I'm gathering information and building interview skills. Your mind loves should statements. You should be further ahead. You should have more money. You should be in a relationship. But should is just your current expectations arguing with reality. Reality doesn't care about your shoulds. Replacing should with I'd prefer or I'm working toward reduces the pressure and anxiety these statements create. Developing what's called a witness perspective is transformative. This means learning to observe your thoughts without being completely merged with them. You have thoughts, but you are not your thoughts. You're the awareness behind the thoughts, the space in which thoughts appear and disappear. When you can watch your anxious thoughts with curiosity rather than immediately believing them, they lose their power. Journaling is incredibly effective for rewiring thought patterns. Writing down your anxious thoughts often reveals how exaggerated or unrealistic they are. Seeing them on paper instead of swirling in your mind creates distance. You can then write alternative, more balanced perspectives. This practice engages different parts of your brain and helps encode new, healthier thinking patterns. Remember, these thought patterns developed over years, maybe decades. They won't change overnight, but every time you catch a distorted thought and consciously choose a more realistic one, you're building new neural pathways. Neuroplasticity means your brain can learn new patterns at any age. It just takes consistent practice and patience with yourself. Chapter 6. The Art of Letting Go. Let's talk about attachment, which might be the secret source of most of your anxiety. Not attachment in the sense of caring about things, but attachment as in needing things to go exactly a certain way to feel okay. When you're attached to specific outcomes, you're essentially outsourcing your peace to circumstances beyond your control. Think about it. How much of your anxiety comes from things not going the way you planned? Someone didn't respond the way you expected. A situation didn't unfold the way
You hoped. Life threw you a curveball you didn't see coming.
The anxiety isn't really about the situation itself. It's about your attachment to how you thought things should be. Attachment is like trying to hold water in your fist. The tighter you squeeze, trying to control it, keep it exactly as it is, the more it slips through your fingers. But if you hold your hand open, relaxed, the water can rest in your palm. You can enjoy it, appreciate it, without desperately trying to keep it from changing. There's a crucial difference between preference and attachment. Preference is, I hope this works out this way. Attachment is, this must work out this way, or I can't be okay. Preference allows for flexibility and peace, regardless of outcome. Attachment creates anxiety because your emotional state is now dependent on things you can't fully control. Outcome independence is one of the most liberating concepts you can embrace. It means you do your best, make your effort, take your action, and then release your grip on needing a specific result. You plant the seed, water it, give it sunlight, but you don't stand over it anxiously demanding that it grow according to your timeline or vision. You trust the process. A lot of anxiety comes from trying to control other people. You want them to understand you, approve of you, behave differently, make different choices. But people aren't puppets. They have their own minds, their own patterns, their own journeys. Trying to control them is like trying to control the weather. You can bring an umbrella, but you can't stop the rain. Detaching from your self-image is another level of freedom. Many people create anxiety by trying to maintain a certain image, the successful one, the smart one, the one who has it all together. But maintaining an image is exhausting. It means you're constantly monitoring yourself, editing yourself, performing yourself. True detachment means being willing to be seen as imperfect, to make mistakes, to be misunderstood, without your peace depending on the approval of others. Your ego is the part of you that creates most attachment. It needs to be right. It needs to be important. It needs to be in control. It needs to be safe. But you are so much more than your ego. You're the awareness behind the ego, the consciousness that can watch the ego's dramas without being swept up in them. Practicing non-resistance is powerful. Resistance to what's already happening creates enormous stress. Something unwanted occurs, and immediately your mind goes into fight mode. This shouldn't be happening. This is wrong. I need to fix this immediately. But resisting what's already here is like pushing against a wall. It's futile and exhausting. Non-resistance doesn't mean being passive. It means accepting what has already happened so you can respond wisely instead of reacting from panic. It's the difference between, "I can't believe this is happening, this is terrible," and, "Okay, this is happening. Now what's my
Wisest response? Detachment from timeline is liberating for the anxious mind. So much anxiety comes from wanting things to happen faster than they're happening. You want the promotion now, the relationship to progress quicker, the problem solved immediately. But life has its own timing. Fighting against that timing creates suffering. When you can detach from your preferred schedule while still taking appropriate action, you find peace in the present, regardless of when things unfold. Surrender is closely related to detachment. Surrender isn't giving up. It's releasing the illusion that you can control everything and trusting that you can handle whatever comes. It's doing your best and then surrendering the outcome to forces beyond your control. Paradoxically, this surrender actually empowers you because you stop wasting energy on the impossible and focus on what you can actually influence. Detachment also means letting go of the need for certainty. Your anxious mind craves guarantees, but life doesn't offer guarantees. The more comfortable you can become with uncertainty, with not knowing how things will turn out, the less anxiety you'll experience. Uncertainty becomes an adventure rather than a threat when you trust your ability to handle whatever unfolds. Here's the ultimate detachment: letting go of needing to be free from anxiety. Many people become anxious about their anxiety, creating a meta layer of suffering. They need their anxiety to disappear to feel okay. But this need creates a paradox. The more you need anxiety to go away, the more anxious you become about having anxiety. True freedom comes when you can accept occasional anxiety as a normal human experience, without making it mean something terrible about you. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply while not gripping so tightly that you strangle what you love. It means you can be invested in outcomes while not being dependent on them for your peace. It means you engage fully with life while maintaining an unshakable center that doesn't collapse when things don't go as planned. Chapter 7. Building Your Inner Fortress. Let's talk about something fundamental: safety. Not the kind of safety that comes from locked doors or insurance policies, though those have their place. I'm talking about inner safety, the kind that exists regardless of external circumstances. Because here's the truth: most anxiety stems from a deep feeling that the world isn't safe, and you aren't equipped to handle what it might throw at you. Inner safety starts with self-trust. When you trust yourself to navigate whatever comes your way, you feel less need to control every variable or obsess over every possible outcome. Self-trust means believing that you have the resilience, creativity, and strength to handle life's curveballs. It means knowing that even when things don't go as planned, even when you stumble, even when you face genuine difficulties, you'll find a way through. Think about this honestly. Look at your track record. You've already survived every difficult day you've had, every heartbreak, every failure, every crisis that felt unsurvivable at the time. You made it through. Your anxiety conveniently forgets this track record. It treats every new challenge like you're encountering difficulty for the first time, completely ignoring all the evidence of your resilience. Building self-trust requires looking at this evidence honestly. Make a list of challenges you've overcome. Remember the times you thought you couldn't handle something, but you did. Recall the moments when you surprised yourself with your strength. This isn't about being arrogant. It's about being accurate. Your past is proof of your capability. Now, let's talk about your relationship with yourself. Because for many people, the biggest source of internal unsafety is their own inner critic. Imagine having a roommate who constantly criticized you, pointed out every flaw, predicted your failure, and reminded you of every past mistake. You'd move out, right? But that's exactly what many people's inner dialogue sounds like. No wonder they feel unsafe. Creating inner safety means becoming your own ally instead of your own adversary. It means speaking to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you genuinely care about. When you make a mistake, instead of, "I'm such an idiot," try, "That didn't go as I hoped, but I can learn from this." When you're struggling, instead of, "What's wrong with me?" try, "This is hard, and it's okay that it's hard." Self-compassion isn't self-pity or making excuses. It's treating yourself with basic human kindness while still holding yourself accountable and working toward growth. Research shows that self-compassion actually increases motivation and resilience because you're working from a foundation of support rather than fear and criticism. Boundaries are another essential component of inner safety. Boundaries aren't walls built to keep people out. They're clear guidelines that protect your energy, time, and well-being. When you don't have healthy boundaries, you're constantly vulnerable to other people's demands, moods, and emergencies. This creates chronic stress because you feel like you have no control over your own life. Setting boundaries might sound like this: "I need time to think about that before I commit. I'm not available to talk right now, but I can connect tomorrow. I appreciate you sharing that, but I need to protect my mental space right now." These aren't mean or selfish. They're necessary for maintaining your inner stability. Physical well-being directly impacts your sense of safety. Your body and mind aren't separate systems. When your body is depleted, undernourished, sleep-deprived, or chemically imbalanced from too much caffeine and sugar, your nervous system operates from a baseline of stress. Taking care of your physical health, proper sleep, good nutrition, regular movement, isn't vanity. It's creating the physiological foundation for inner peace. Financial security, while not always fully controllable, significantly impacts your sense of safety. I'm not talking about being wealthy. I'm talking about having enough cushion that you're not constantly worried about survival. Even small steps, creating a basic budget, building a modest emergency fund, reducing unnecessary expenses, can dramatically reduce baseline anxiety. Having meaning and purpose in your life creates a different kind of safety. When you feel like your life has direction and significance, when you're engaged in work or activities that matter to you, you have a sense of groundedness that transcends daily worries. Purpose provides context that makes individual anxieties feel more manageable. You're connected to something larger than your immediate fears. Supportive relationships are crucial, but quality matters more than quantity. Having even one or two people who genuinely understand you, accept you as you are, and support you through difficulties makes an enormous difference. These relationships provide a safety net that reduces anxiety. You know you're not alone in facing life's challenges. Developing practical skills increases your confidence and sense of security. The more capable you feel, the less anxious you are about facing new situations. This might include communication skills, problem-solving abilities, technical skills, or emotional intelligence. Every skill you develop is another tool in your toolkit, making you feel more prepared for whatever life brings. Here's something important. Creating inner safety also means accepting that complete safety is an illusion. Life involves risk and uncertainty. Bad things sometimes happen to good people. You can take reasonable precautions, but you can't control everything. The mature form of security doesn't depend on controlling everything around you. It comes from knowing you can handle uncertainty and still be okay. Inner safety ultimately comes from the recognition that your worth isn't conditional. You don't have to earn your right to exist or to take up space. You don't have to be perfect to deserve kindness. You don't have to achieve certain things to be valuable. This fundamental self-acceptance creates a foundation of safety that external circumstances can't shake. Chapter 8. Mastering Your Emotional Landscape. Emotions are like weather systems moving through your internal landscape. They come, they peak, they naturally subside if you don't interfere with the process. But most people don't let emotions flow naturally. They either resist them so strongly that they get stuck, or they get so caught up in them that they lose all perspective. Learning to regulate emotions is about finding the middle path. Understanding emotions starts with recognizing what they actually are: temporary experiences, not permanent states. Anxiety feels like it will last forever when you're in it. But emotions have a natural life cycle. They arise, they peak, and they fade, usually within 90 seconds if you don't feed them with additional thoughts. The problem is, we keep feeding them. The RAIN technique offers a practical approach to difficult emotions. Recognize what you're feeling without judgment. Allow it to be present without fighting it. Investigate it with curiosity. Where do you feel it in your body? What thoughts accompany it? And practice non-identification. You're experiencing this emotion, but you are not this emotion. Your body is where emotions live. Anxiety might show up as a tight chest, fluttering stomach, or tense shoulders. Instead of trying to think your way out of these sensations, try breathing into them. Relax around them. Let them be present without making them wrong. Often, this acceptance allows them to release naturally. There's something called the window of tolerance, your optimal zone where you can think clearly and respond appropriately. When emotions push you outside this window, you either become overwhelmed and panicky, or you shut down and go numb. Learning to recognize when you're leaving this window and having tools to return is crucial. Grounding techniques bring you back when emotions become overwhelming. Try the 5-4-3-2-1 method. Notice 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, 1 you can taste. This interrupts the emotional spiral and brings you back into your body and the present moment. Breathing techniques aren't just woo-woo nonsense. There's a specific pattern called the physiological sigh that's incredibly effective. Take a deep breath in, then take a second, smaller breath on top of it. Then do a long, slow exhale. This specific pattern activates your parasympathetic nervous system faster than simple, deep breathing. Titration means working with small amounts of difficult emotions rather than being flooded by the full intensity. If you're feeling very anxious, instead of trying to process all of it at once, focus on just a small part of the sensation. Breathe with it. Let it soften slightly. Then gradually work with more. This prevents overwhelm, while still allowing you to process stuck emotions. Emotional granularity is the ability to distinguish between different emotional states precisely. Instead of just feeling bad or anxious, can you identify that you're specifically worried about work, disappointed about a canceled plan, and excited about a future opportunity, all at the same time? This precision helps you respond appropriately to each specific emotion. Pendulation is a technique where you consciously move your attention between the challenging emotion and a resource or pleasant sensation. Notice the anxiety in your chest, then shift attention to the feeling of your feet on solid ground. Go back and forth. This teaches your nervous system that it can handle difficult emotions without being completely overwhelmed. Self-soothing skills are practical ways to comfort yourself when emotions feel intense. This might be taking a warm bath, listening to music that calms you, holding something soft, using aromatherapy, or any activity that helps your nervous system settle. Having a toolkit of self-soothing techniques means you don't have to depend on others to help you regulate. Cognitive reappraisal changes how you think about a situation to change how you feel. This isn't denial or toxic positivity. It's finding more balanced interpretations. Instead of, "This presentation will be a disaster," try, "This presentation is challenging, but I'm prepared and I can handle whatever happens." Sometimes opposite action is helpful. When anxiety tells you to avoid something that's actually important, you might choose to do it anyway, with extra support and self-care. This builds confidence that you can act wisely even when you're feeling emotional. You're not controlled by your feelings. Distress tolerance skills help you get through difficult emotional periods without making things worse. This might include intense exercise to discharge emotional energy, distraction techniques when processing isn't helpful, or activities that provide a sense of accomplishment. The goal isn't avoiding emotions forever, but having ways to cope when they're overwhelming. Remember, emotional regulation isn't about never feeling difficult emotions. It's about developing the capacity to feel them without being destroyed by them. It's about maintaining your center even when emotional storms are passing through. It's about trusting that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. Chapter 9. Fear as your teacher. What if I told you that fear isn't your enemy, but actually one of your greatest teachers? I know that sounds counterintuitive when you're in the grip of anxiety, but stay with me. Every fear contains valuable information if you know how to extract it. The problem is, most people are so busy trying to eliminate fear that they never stop to learn what it's trying to teach them. Every fear points to something you value. If you're afraid of public speaking,
Reveals how much you value others' respect and approval.
if you're anxious about financial security, it shows how much you value stability and the ability to care for yourself and loved ones. Instead of just trying to eliminate these fears, you can extract wisdom about your core values and priorities. Fear often points toward your growing edge, the areas where you're ready to expand but haven't yet built confidence. If you're afraid of starting your own business, it might actually indicate that entrepreneurship is calling to you. The fear isn't a stop sign. It's a sign that you're on the edge of something meaningful that will require growth. Try this. Make a fear inventory. List your most persistent fears. For each one, ask, what is this fear trying to protect me from? What does it say about what I value? If I weren't afraid of this, what would I do differently? What skills or knowledge would help me feel more confident here? This transforms fear from a vague, overwhelming feeling into specific, actionable information. Many of your current fears are actually outdated protection mechanisms. Maybe you developed social anxiety as a teenager to protect yourself from rejection. But now, as an adult, this same protection is preventing you from forming meaningful connections or advancing in your career. You can thank these old protections for their service while consciously choosing new, more appropriate responses. Fear reveals limiting beliefs that need examination. If you're afraid of failure, you might discover beliefs like, "My worth depends on success," or "Making mistakes means I'm incompetent." Once you identify these beliefs, you can question them. Are they actually true? Where did they come from? What would be a more empowering belief? Worst-case scenario planning can actually reduce anxiety while building wisdom. Instead of vaguely worrying, consciously explore the worst case. What would actually happen? How would you handle it? Often you discover that even the worst case isn't as catastrophic as your anxious mind suggests, and you're more capable of handling it than you believed. Fear can teach you about boundaries and self-care. If you're anxious about saying no to requests, your fear might be teaching you about the importance of protecting your time and energy. If you're afraid of conflict, it might be pointing toward the need to develop better communication skills and the courage to stand up for your values. Transforming fear into courage isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing practice. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and taking wise action anyway. Every time you feel afraid but take a step forward, you're building your courage muscle and proving to yourself that you can handle uncertainty and discomfort. Gradual exposure helps transform specific fears into confidence. Instead of trying to overcome a fear all at once, expose yourself to increasingly challenging versions of what you're afraid of. If you fear public speaking, start by speaking up more in small meetings. Then give presentations to colleagues. Then speak to larger groups. Each step builds on the confidence from the previous one. Learning to distinguish between rational and irrational fears is crucial. Rational fears protect your safety and deserve appropriate caution. Irrational fears limit your growth and don't serve you. A healthy fear of walking alone in a dangerous area at night is rational. A paralyzing fear of any social interaction is irrational. Learning this discernment allows you to take appropriate precautions when needed without being paralyzed by unfounded worries. Shadow work involves examining the parts of yourself you've rejected or hidden out of fear. Often we're afraid of being seen as too ambitious, too sensitive, too different, or too powerful. But these rejected aspects often contain gifts we need to reclaim. Transforming fear means integrating these shadow parts and embracing more of who you truly are. Fear of death, whether conscious or unconscious, underlies many smaller fears. Making peace with mortality might sound dark, but it's actually liberating. When you accept death as a natural part of life, many smaller fears lose their power. This acceptance can free you to take meaningful risks and live more authentically because you recognize that time is finite and precious. The ultimate transformation of fear is developing trust in life itself and in your ability to navigate whatever comes. This isn't naive optimism that nothing bad will happen. It's mature confidence that you can handle life's challenges, learn from difficulties, and find meaning and growth even in adversity. This trust allows you to live more openly and courageously, using fear as a guide rather than being controlled by it. Chapter 10. Becoming mentally unshakable. Resilience isn't about never falling down. It's about how quickly you get back up and what you learn in the process. Mental resilience is your ability to bend without breaking, to adapt to change, and to maintain your center even when life gets chaotic. And here's the good news. Resilience isn't something you're born with or without. It's something you build, like a muscle that gets stronger with use. The foundation of resilience is accepting that difficulty is part of the deal. Life isn't supposed to be easy all the time. Challenges aren't evidence that something's wrong with you or your life. They're just part of being human. People who struggle with anxiety often have this underlying belief that life should be smooth, that they should be able to avoid major problems, that having difficulties means they're doing something wrong. But that's not how life works. Think of resilience like building physical fitness. You don't get strong by avoiding heavy things. You get strong by gradually lifting heavier weights. Your mental and emotional resilience works the same way. Every challenge you navigate successfully makes you stronger for the next one. One of the most powerful concepts in psychology is the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Fixed mindset says your abilities, intelligence, and character are set in stone. Every challenge becomes a test of your fixed worth. This creates massive anxiety because you're constantly being evaluated. Growth mindset says your abilities can be developed through effort, learning, and persistence. This makes challenges feel like opportunities rather than threats. Building resilience requires diversifying your sources of strength. If your entire sense of worth depends on your career, a professional setback will devastate you. If your happiness depends entirely on one relationship, trouble in that relationship will destroy your peace. Resilient people cultivate multiple sources of meaning, connection, and fulfillment, so that difficulties in one area don't collapse their entire world. Mental flexibility is crucial for resilience. Rigid thinking creates anxiety because it assumes things should always work a certain way. Flexible thinking allows you to adapt your strategies, beliefs, and approaches when circumstances change. It's the difference between a rigid tree that breaks in strong wind and bamboo that bends but doesn't snap. Reframing challenges as opportunities isn't toxic positivity. It's practical wisdom. Maybe losing your job forces you to explore career directions you wouldn't have considered otherwise. Maybe a health challenge teaches you to prioritize self-care and appreciate your body in new ways. Maybe a relationship ending creates space for you to develop a stronger relationship with yourself. This doesn't mean the difficulty isn't real or painful. It means you're looking for the potential growth within the challenge. Emotional agility, another component of resilience. This is the ability to navigate your emotions in a healthy way, feeling them fully without being overwhelmed or trying to control them completely. Emotionally agile people can acknowledge difficult emotions without being defined by them. They use emotional information to guide their actions without being controlled by emotional impulses. Purpose and meaning are among the strongest predictors of resilience. When you feel like your life has direction and significance, you can endure temporary setbacks because you're connected to something larger than immediate circumstances. This purpose doesn't have to be grandiose. It might be as simple as being a good parent, contributing to your community, or developing your talents and abilities. Social connections matter enormously for resilience, but quality trumps quantity. Having even one or two people who genuinely understand you, accept you as you are, and support you through difficulties makes a huge difference in your ability to handle challenges. These relationships provide perspective, practical support, and the reminder that you're not alone. Self-compassion is a resilience multiplier. When you're harsh and critical with yourself, you deplete your own resources and make it harder to bounce back from difficulties. But when you treat yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a good friend, you maintain the inner strength needed for resilience and recovery. Physical resilience supports mental resilience because mind and body are interconnected. Regular movement, adequate sleep, proper nutrition, and stress management practices all contribute to your overall capacity to handle challenges. When your body is strong and healthy, your mind has more resources available for dealing with mental and emotional difficulties. Building small resiliences prepares you for larger challenges. Every time you handle a minor setback with grace, overcome a small fear, or persist through a temporary difficulty, you're building evidence of your resilience. These small victories accumulate into confidence and capability that serve you well when major difficulties arise. Learning from adversity is what transforms challenging experiences into wisdom and strength. Resilient people don't just survive difficulties, they extract meaning from them. They ask, what did I learn about myself? What strengths did I discover?
What skills did I develop? How can I use this experience to help myself or others in the future? Viktor Frankl called it response ability, the ability to choose your response to any situation regardless of circumstances. You can't always control what happens to you, but you always have some choice in how you respond. This sense of choice and agency is fundamental to resilience because it reminds you that you have power even in difficult situations. Chapter 11. The Mind's Eye as a Tool. Let's talk about something that might sound like mental gymnastics, but is actually grounded in
Solid neuroscience, visualization. Your brain is remarkable in that it can't reliably distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you visualize yourself handling a situation with complete calm and confidence, your brain begins to encode this as an actual experience. You're literally programming new neural pathways. Most people visualize all wrong. They try to visualize being anxiety-free, which actually keeps their focus on anxiety. Instead, visualize the specific state you want to cultivate. See yourself feeling grounded and centered. Feel the sensations in your body of being completely at ease. Notice how you breathe when you're calm, how you carry yourself when you feel secure, how you speak when you're confident. The most powerful visualizations engage all your senses, not just sight. When creating your calm state in your mind, don't just see it. Feel it in your body. Hear the sounds of your calm breathing. Smell the environment around you. The more sensory detail you include, the more real the experience becomes to your nervous system. Future memories are a fascinating concept. This means visualizing yourself successfully handling anxiety-provoking situations so vividly and repeatedly that your brain begins to treat these visualized experiences as actual memories of success. When you encounter similar situations in real life, your brain references these positive memories instead of defaulting to anxiety patterns. One incredibly effective technique is creating a mental sanctuary. In your mind, design a perfect place of safety and calm. This might be a peaceful beach, a cozy cabin, a beautiful garden, or even a completely imaginary space that feels secure. Make this place incredibly detailed. Then practice going to this sanctuary in your mind whenever you feel anxiety building. Your brain will associate this mental space with immediate calm. Rehearsal visualization involves mentally practicing successful outcomes for specific anxiety-provoking situations. If you have an important conversation coming up, don't just visualize it going well. Visualize the entire experience of feeling calm and authentic during the conversation. See yourself walking in with confidence, breathing easily, speaking clearly, connecting genuinely. Feel the sensations of being at ease in your body. Transformation visualization goes deeper by helping you see yourself as someone who naturally embodies calm and confidence. Instead of seeing calm as something you achieve occasionally, visualize it as your natural state. See yourself as someone who meets life's challenges with grace, who breathes easily in stressful situations, who naturally maintains perspective during difficulties. Here's a counterintuitive technique. Reverse visualization. Instead of visualizing the positive outcome, visualize yourself handling the worst-case scenario with complete calm and wisdom.
This removes the fear of the unknown by showing your mind that even if things
don't go perfectly, you can handle it with grace. Paradoxically, this often makes the worst case feel less threatening. Energy visualization works with the subtle sensations in your body. As you visualize calm states, pay attention to how energy moves through your system. Notice areas where you feel expansion, warmth, or flowing sensations. Learn to direct this calm energy to areas that tend to hold tension. This creates a bridge between mental visualization and physical healing. Embodied visualization means not just seeing yourself as calm, but literally feeling the physical sensations of calmness while you visualize. Let your shoulders drop. Soften your facial muscles. Slow your breathing. Allow your entire body to settle into the calm state you're visualizing. This integration creates much more powerful and lasting changes. Timeline visualization can heal anxiety patterns from past experiences. Visualize your life as a timeline from past to future. Go back to earlier versions of yourself who first developed anxiety patterns. In your visualization, offer them comfort, wisdom, and the calm presence they needed. Then visualize this healing energy flowing forward through your timeline, transforming how you experience similar situations now and in the future. Archetypal visualization taps into deeper sources of strength. You might visualize yourself embodying the energy of a wise elder who has weathered many storms and remained unshaken, or a peaceful warrior who meets difficulties with courage and calm, or a nurturing presence who provides safety and comfort to the anxious parts of yourself. Environmental visualization creates mental images of spaces that naturally support calm states. You might visualize yourself in a quiet forest, where every breath brings deeper relaxation, or beside a still lake, where the water's calmness reflects your inner peace, or in a comfortable room filled with warm light and the energy of safety. Cellular visualization takes the practice even deeper. Imagine calm energy flowing into every cell of your body. Visualize your nervous system relaxing at the cellular level. See stress hormones being replaced by calm-inducing neurotransmitters. Imagine your DNA itself encoding patterns of peace and resilience. Combining visualization with affirmation creates powerful synergy. As you visualize your calm, confident state, repeat affirmations that support this new identity. I am naturally calm and centered. I handle life's challenges with grace and wisdom. Peace is my natural state. The combination of vivid imagery with affirming language accelerates the rewiring process. Preventative visualization means imagining yourself maintaining calm in situations that haven't occurred yet, but that you know trigger anxiety. By repeatedly visualizing successful, calm responses to these triggers, you're essentially immunizing yourself against future anxiety, creating neural patterns of calm response before you need them. Chapter 12. Your Nervous System's Control Panel. Here's something most people don't realize. You can't think your way out of anxiety, because anxiety lives in your nervous system, not just in your thoughts. Your autonomic nervous system is like your body's automatic pilot, and it's been running on settings designed for a different world. Learning to consciously regulate this system is perhaps the most powerful skill you can develop. Your nervous system has two main modes. The sympathetic system is your gas pedal. It activates when you perceive threat, preparing your body for action. The parasympathetic system is your brake. It activates rest, recovery, and calm. Anxiety happens when your gas pedal is constantly pressed and your brake isn't working properly to bring you back to baseline. Polyvagal theory reveals something fascinating. You actually have 3 nervous system states, not 2. The ventral vagal state is your zone of safety and social connection. When this system is active, you feel calm, open, and able to connect with others easily. The sympathetic state is your fight-or-flight mobilization. The dorsal vagal state is your shutdown response when threat feels overwhelming. Most anxiety occurs when you're stuck in sympathetic activation or cycling between sympathetic and dorsal states without accessing the ventral vagal state of safety. Learning to consciously activate your ventral vagal system is the key to lasting relief, because it's the only state where you can think clearly, feel connected, and access your natural wisdom. The vagus nerve is your longest cranial nerve, connecting your brain to your heart, lungs, and digestive system. It's essentially the communication highway between brain and body. Stimulating the vagus nerve activates parasympathetic responses and helps shift you out of anxiety states into calm. Breath is your most accessible nervous system regulation tool because it's both automatic and under conscious control. Different breathing patterns send different signals. Quick, shallow chest breathing signals danger. Long, slow belly breathing signals safety. The physiological sigh, a normal inhale plus a second smaller inhale, followed by a long exhale, activates the parasympathetic system more effectively than simple deep breathing. Heart rate variability is another key factor. When you're anxious, your heart rate becomes rigid. When you're calm and resilient, your heart rate varies naturally. You can improve heart rate variability by practicing coherent breathing, breathing at about 5 breaths per minute, which synchronizes your heart rate with your breathing rhythm. Cold exposure is a powerful tool for building nervous system resilience. When you expose yourself to cold water or air, your sympathetic system activates. But if you can maintain slow, controlled breathing and mental calm during the exposure, you're training your system to stay regulated, even when activated. This builds confidence in handling stress. Co-regulation explains why being around calm people helps you feel calmer, while being around anxious people can increase your anxiety. Your nervous systems actually synchronize with people around you through unconscious cues like breathing patterns and micro-expressions. Understanding this helps you choose your social environment more consciously. Movement is essential for nervous system health because your system needs to complete the stress response cycle through physical discharge. When you're anxious, stress hormones build up and need to be moved through your body to be released. Gentle shaking, stretching, walking, or dancing can all help discharge excess activation. Progressive muscle relaxation teaches your body the difference between tension and relaxation. When you consciously tense and then release muscle groups throughout your body, you're not just relaxing muscles, you're sending signals through your nervous system that it's safe to let go.
Sound and vibration can regulate your nervous system because your vagus nerve responds to certain frequencies. Humming, singing, chanting, or listening to specific music can activate parasympathetic responses. Humming, in particular, stimulates the vagus nerve directly and can quickly shift your state. Touch and pressure activate what's called the mammalian calming response. Gentle, slow touch or deep pressure activates your parasympathetic system. This is why activities like massage, weighted blankets, or even placing your hand on your heart can be immediately calming. Temperature regulation affects your nervous system because your body's temperature control is connected to your autonomic system. Being too hot can increase anxiety, while being too cold can trigger shutdown responses. Finding your optimal temperature range and using warmth or coolness strategically can support regulation. Nervous system tracking means developing awareness of your internal state throughout the day. Notice early signs of activation, like increased heart rate, shallow breathing, or muscle tension. Also notice signs of safety and calm, like deeper breathing, relaxed muscles, and ease. This awareness allows you to intervene early before anxiety builds to overwhelming levels. Social connection is one of the most powerful nervous system regulators because humans are wired for co-regulation. Safe, attuned relationships literally help regulate your nervous system through unconscious synchronization. This is why isolation often increases anxiety, while healthy connection naturally decreases it. Chapter 13. The conversation that never stops. There's a voice in your head that never shuts up. It's running commentary on everything, judging, analyzing, predicting, remembering, worrying. For most people, this inner dialogue is like having a radio stuck on the anxiety station, broadcasting worry, worst-case scenarios, self-criticism, and fearful predictions 24 hours a day. Mastering this inner conversation is perhaps the most important skill you can develop. The first step is simply becoming aware that this conversation exists. Most people are so merged with their thoughts that they don't even realize they're thinking. They just experience a constant stream of mental activity without recognizing it as optional. Start paying attention to the voice in your head. Notice its tone, its favorite topics, its patterns. This awareness alone creates a gap between you and your thoughts. Much of your inner dialogue isn't even originally yours. It's internalized voices from your past, parents, teachers, critics, society. You might recognize your mother's worried voice warning about dangers, your father's critical voice pointing out flaws, or a teacher's harsh voice telling you you're not good enough. These voices masquerade as your own thoughts, but they're actually old programming you can update. The anxious inner dialogue obsesses over three main themes: catastrophizing about the future, ruminating about the past, and criticizing yourself in the present. It asks disempowering questions like, what if everything goes wrong? Why did I do that stupid thing? And what's wrong with me? These patterns maintain anxiety by keeping your attention focused on problems, threats, and inadequacies.
Redirecting your inner dialogue requires conscious effort. When you catch anxious thoughts, pause and consciously shift the conversation. Instead of, "What if I fail?" try, "I'm prepared and I can handle whatever happens." Instead of, "I always mess things up," try, "I'm learning and growing from every experience." This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about choosing thoughts that are both true and helpful. The quality of questions you ask yourself internally has enormous power. Anxious thinking asks disempowering questions that focus on problems. Wise thinking asks empowering questions that focus on solutions and possibilities. Instead of, "Why does this always happen to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of, "What if it doesn't work out?" ask, "How can I best prepare and then trust the process?" Developing a compassionate inner voice is transformative. Many people speak to themselves more harshly than they'd ever speak to anyone else. This internal harshness creates chronic stress. Learning to speak to yourself with kindness and encouragement creates an internal environment of safety and support. This doesn't mean making excuses. It means treating yourself with basic human dignity while still working toward growth. Conscious self-talk means deliberately choosing thoughts that support your well-being rather than automatically believing whatever thoughts arise. This isn't denial. It's choosing thoughts that are both true and helpful. Instead of, "I can't handle this," choose, "This is challenging, but I have resources and I can learn as I go." Reframing finds more balanced interpretations of the same situation. The anxious mind interprets ambiguous situations in the most threatening way possible. But every situation can be viewed from multiple angles. If someone doesn't return your call, instead of, "They must be angry at me," you could think, "They might be busy," or "They might not have seen it yet." Your inner critic is often the loudest voice in anxious inner dialogue. It constantly points out flaws, mistakes, and inadequacies. Learning to recognize this voice and consciously choose not to engage with it is liberating. You can thank your inner critic for trying to protect you by pointing out potential problems, but let it know its services are no longer needed in the same intensity. Developing an inner wise voice or mentor can transform your relationship with challenges. This voice speaks from maturity, compassion, and perspective. It might sound like a wise grandparent, a trusted teacher, or simply your own voice speaking from your highest wisdom. This voice offers comfort during difficult times, guidance when you're uncertain, and perspective when you're caught up in temporary problems. Thought stopping interrupts repetitive anxious loops. When you notice your mind playing the same worried thought for the 100th time, mentally say, "Stop," then consciously redirect your attention. This works best when combined with immediately focusing on something positive or engaging, rather than trying to create a mental vacuum. Internal boundaries are as important as external ones. This means learning to say no to thoughts that don't serve you, just as you learn to say no to people or activities that don't serve you. You don't have to believe every thought that arises. You don't have to follow every mental suggestion your anxious mind offers. Mental rehearsal uses inner dialogue to prepare for challenging situations positively. Instead of rehearsing all the things that could go wrong, mentally rehearse handling situations with calm, confidence, and skill. This positive rehearsal programs your nervous system for success. Multiple perspectives counter the tunnel vision that anxiety creates. When you're anxious, you see situations from only one angle, usually the most threatening. Consciously practice asking, "How else could I look at this? What would someone I admire think about this? How will this matter in 5 years?" Gratitude in your inner dialogue is powerful for shifting from anxiety to peace. Regularly directing your inner conversation toward appreciation for what's going well, what you've learned from challenges, and what you have to look forward to, literally rewires your brain for positivity. Creating affirmations that feel authentic supports a more positive inner dialogue. Instead of affirmations that feel fake, create statements that acknowledge your current reality while pointing toward growth. "I am learning to handle challenges with more calm and wisdom," feels more authentic than "I never feel anxious." Internal cheerleading means consciously encouraging yourself the way a good coach encourages an athlete. Acknowledge your efforts, celebrate small victories, offer comfort during setbacks, and maintain belief in your ability to grow. This supportive internal voice becomes a source of strength you can access anywhere, anytime. Chapter 14. Making Peace That Lasts. Temporary relief feels good in the moment, but what you really want is lasting transformation. Not just feeling better for a day or a week, but fundamentally changing your relationship with fear, uncertainty, and challenge so that anxiety no longer has the same grip on your life. This level of change goes deeper than techniques. It touches your core beliefs, your identity, and your entire approach to life. True transformation begins with recognizing that anxiety isn't the enemy. It's a misguided protector using outdated strategies. When you can see anxiety as part of your internal system that means well, but needs retraining, you can work with it more skillfully instead of fighting against it. This shift from resistance to cooperation is foundational. Identity transformation is the deepest level of change. If you identify as someone who struggles with anxiety, you'll unconsciously maintain patterns that confirm this identity. But if you begin to see yourself as someone who is mastering their inner world, you'll naturally align with thoughts and behaviors that support this new identity. Becoming someone who naturally embodies calm requires consistent practice, but not in the way most people think. It's not about practicing techniques when you're anxious. It's about practicing being calm when you're already calm, so that calm becomes your default state. This means consciously cultivating and appreciating moments of peace throughout your day. Healing underlying wounds and traumas is essential for deep transformation. Many anxiety patterns developed as intelligent adaptations to early life experiences where you genuinely needed protection. Acknowledging these patterns with compassion, while consciously choosing new responses appropriate to your current life, is crucial for healing. Reparenting yourself means giving yourself the safety, encouragement, and unconditional acceptance that you needed as a child, and that supports your healing now. This might mean speaking to yourself with kindness when you make mistakes, setting boundaries to protect your energy, or providing comfort during difficult times. You become the loving parent to yourself that your inner child still needs. Environmental design plays a huge role in lasting transformation. Your environment
Shapes your internal state more than you realize. Creating physical spaces that support calm, surrounding yourself with grounded, positive people, and curating what information you consume all support your transformation at an unconscious level. Somatic practices are essential because anxiety lives in your body as much as your mind. Practices like yoga, tai chi, dance, or simply spending time in nature help your nervous system remember its natural capacity for calm and regulation. These practices work at a level deeper than thought. Spiritual or philosophical development often accompanies deep transformation because working with fear ultimately leads to questions about meaning, purpose, and your relationship to life itself. This doesn't require formal religion, but developing some sense of connection to something larger than your individual concerns, whether nature, humanity, creativity, or transcendent values. Cultivating what could be called emotional immune strength makes you naturally more resilient. Just as physical immune strength helps you resist illness, emotional immune strength helps you maintain your center even when exposed to stress, conflict, or uncertainty. This strength develops through gradually exposing yourself to manageable challenges while maintaining your stability. Neuroplasticity research shows your brain continues changing throughout life based on your experiences and mental habits. Every time you choose calm over anxiety, every time you respond to challenge with wisdom instead of fear, you're literally rewiring your brain. Consistency matters more than perfection in this rewiring process. Metacognitive awareness, awareness of your own thinking processes, is crucial for lasting transformation. This means not just noticing when you're thinking anxious thoughts, but understanding the deeper patterns and triggers that create those thoughts. With this awareness, you can intervene at the source rather than just managing symptoms. Creating rituals and routines that support your transformed state helps anchor your new way of being into daily life. This might include morning practices that set a calm tone, evening practices that help you process and release stress, or weekly practices that help you maintain perspective and connection to what matters most. Conscious choice-making means regularly asking whether your decisions come from anxiety or from wisdom. Anxiety-driven choices usually involve avoiding discomfort, seeking approval, or trying to control outcomes. Wisdom-driven choices are based on your values, your growth, and what serves your highest good, even if it involves temporary discomfort. Building wisdom reserves involves consciously cultivating insight, perspective, and inner resources during calm times so they're available during challenges. This might involve reading philosophical or spiritual texts, spending time in reflection, learning from wise people, or extracting lessons from your own experiences. The transformation from anxiety to peace is ultimately a transformation from separation to connection. Connection to yourself, to others, to your purpose, and to life itself. Anxiety often stems from feeling isolated, misunderstood, or cut off from meaning and support. True transformation involves rebuilding these connections in healthy, sustainable ways. Lasting transformation requires accepting that you'll still experience anxiety sometimes, but your relationship to it will be completely different. Instead of being overwhelmed, you'll observe it, learn from it, and respond skillfully. Anxiety may still arise, but it no longer controls your life or defines your identity. Chapter 15. Being Unapologetically You.
Here's the final piece of the puzzle. Much of your anxiety stems from trying to be someone you're not. The exhausting effort of constantly monitoring yourself to meet external expectations while suppressing parts of yourself that feel unacceptable or unsafe to express. The ultimate resolution of chronic anxiety often comes not from managing fear, but from discovering and living as your authentic self. Authenticity doesn't mean being completely unfiltered or acting on every impulse. True authenticity is aligning your external expression with your internal truth while still being considerate and appropriate. It's having the courage to be genuine rather than performing a version of yourself you think others want to see. Most people develop a false self early in life to gain love, approval, and safety. You learn to emphasize certain parts of your personality while hiding others based on what got positive responses. This false self might have served you well as a child, but maintaining it as an adult requires enormous energy and creates constant anxiety about being discovered or rejected. The false self is like an actor who studied their role so well they've forgotten who they really are beneath the performance. This actor knows exactly what expressions to wear, what words to say, what reactions to display. But the constant performance is exhausting because it requires vigilant attention to external feedback while ignoring internal guidance. Understanding how your false self manifests is crucial for reclaiming authenticity. Maybe you're the people pleaser who automatically agrees even when you disagree internally. Maybe you're the perfectionist who presents a flawless image while hiding struggles. Or maybe you're the chameleon who adapts so completely to different groups that you've lost touch with your own preferences and opinions. Identifying the masks you wear in different situations helps. Notice how you act differently at work than at home, with friends than with family, with people you want to impress versus people you feel comfortable with. Some adaptability is healthy, but significant disconnection from your core self creates exhausting performance anxiety. Fear of rejection is the biggest obstacle to authentic expression because your false self was created specifically to avoid rejection. But living inauthentically guarantees a particular kind of rejection. You reject yourself by not allowing your true nature to be seen. The strategies you use to avoid rejection often create the disconnection and emptiness that fuel anxiety. Start with authenticity experiments, small, low-risk ways of expressing more of your true nature. Share an opinion that's genuinely yours, rather than what you think others want to hear. Wear clothes that express your actual style. Admit when you don't know something, instead of pretending. These experiments feel terrifying at first because you're stepping outside your familiar persona. Authentic self-expression requires developing tolerance for other people's reactions. Not everyone will understand, appreciate, or approve of your authentic self. And that's not only okay, it's necessary. Trying to be all things to all people is impossible and exhausting. When you accept that some people won't resonate with the real you, you free yourself to attract relationships that truly align with who you are. The right people will be attracted to your genuine self, not your performed self. When you attract people based on a false persona, you end up in relationships that require you to maintain that persona indefinitely. But when you attract people based on your authentic nature, you can relax into being yourself. Values clarification helps distinguish between what you actually believe and value versus what you've been told you should believe and value. Many anxious people carry goals and values that aren't truly their own, which creates internal conflict. When your actions align with your genuine values rather than borrowed ones, you experience natural integrity and ease. Emotional authenticity means allowing yourself to feel and express the full range of human emotions, rather than only the ones deemed acceptable. Many people learned that certain emotions like anger, sadness, or even joy were inappropriate. But suppressing natural emotional responses requires enormous energy and creates anxiety. Your authentic gifts and talents often point toward your life purpose. Anxiety sometimes arises when you're not using your natural abilities or when you're forcing yourself into roles that don't fit your nature. Discovering and expressing your gifts creates meaning and fulfillment that naturally supports well-being. The courage to disappoint others is essential for authentic living, because you cannot please everyone and remain true to yourself. This doesn't mean being selfish, but accepting that sometimes your authentic choices will conflict with what others want from you. Learning to disappoint others with kindness while honoring your own truth is crucial. Authentic communication involves expressing your thoughts, feelings, and needs honestly while being respectful. Many anxious people avoid authentic communication, fearing conflict. But indirect or dishonest communication creates more problems than it solves. When you express yourself authentically, you reduce the anxiety that comes from constantly monitoring and censoring yourself. Boundaries protect your authentic self from being overwhelmed by external pressures. When you have clear boundaries about what you will and won't accept, what you can and can't give, and what aligns with your values, you create space for your authentic nature to flourish. Boundaries aren't walls. They're guidelines that help you engage from your authentic center. Self-acceptance is the foundation of authentic living, because you cannot express what you don't accept about yourself. This doesn't mean becoming complacent, but accepting your starting point and human imperfections while still working toward growth. Paradoxically, accepting yourself as you are makes it easier to become who you want to be. Shadow work involves embracing all aspects of yourself, including parts you've been taught are unacceptable. The energy you spend hiding parts of yourself is energy that could be used for creativity, connection, and growth. When you integrate your shadow aspects with compassion, you become more whole and naturally more authentic. Divine discontent is a healthy dissatisfaction with anything that doesn't align with your true nature. This isn't anxious dissatisfaction from comparing yourself to others, but wise recognition that certain situations, relationships, or choices don't serve your authentic expression and growth. This discontent serves as an internal compass, pointing you toward greater alignment. Coming home to yourself involves releasing the performance and pretense and allowing your natural way of being to emerge. This might mean speaking more softly, if that's your natural voice, taking more time to process, if that's your natural pace, or expressing more enthusiasm, if that's your authentic energy. It's about being who you actually are, rather than who you think you should be. Authentic self-care goes beyond surface practices to include making choices that truly serve your well-being. This might mean saying no to obligations that drain you, even if others think they're good for you, or pursuing creative projects that fulfill you, even if they don't make sense to others. True self-care honors your authentic needs. Living authentically creates natural inner alignment, where your thoughts, feelings, and actions all point in the same direction. This alignment eliminates the internal friction and contradiction that fuel anxiety. When you're being true to yourself, there's a sense of flow and ease that supports natural calm and confidence. The journey of authentic living is ultimately about remembering who you were before you learned to be someone else to survive or fit in. This original self is still within you, waiting to be expressed. When you give yourself permission to be authentic, anxiety often dissolves naturally because you're no longer fighting against your own nature. The final realization is that your true self is not something you need to create or become. It's something you already are that you need to stop hiding. The peace you've been seeking is actually your natural state when you're not expending energy maintaining a false identity. Your authentic self is inherently calm, wise, and resilient because it's aligned with your true nature. When you fully embrace authentic living, you discover that anxiety was never really about external threats or circumstances. It was about the internal conflict between who you really are and who you were trying to be. When this conflict resolves through authentic self-expression, a natural peace emerges that doesn't depend on controlling external conditions. This is the ultimate freedom: to be yourself so completely that anxiety has no foothold, to live so authentically that peace becomes your natural state, and to express your true nature so fully that you become a source of calm and inspiration for others who are still trapped in the performance of their false selves. Your authentic self isn't just the cure for your anxiety, it's your gift to the world.